Near Thanksgiving of 2015, when all you could think about was stuffing your face with turkey, Grimgor was introduced to us, and we all learned that he was going to be bashing our face, albeit probably not with a turkey, but rather a giant battle axe named Gitsnik. That's right, folks, we got the Greenskins. They were one of the 4 inaugural races of Total War Warhammer, and they came out alongside the Dwarves, the Empire, and the Vampire Counts, and provided a nice, fun, very aggressive playstyle and very interesting personality with their constant fightiness and waagh and the way they acted. So the Greenskins have always been an interesting race, and especially for those players who enjoy a very aggressive playstyle. Now, as the games wore on and we got into Warhammer 2, like most of the Game 1 factions, the Greenskins found themselves, well, like this little goblin, rather lacking in stature. Compared to the other races. Their roster was a bit thin, they didn't have the same kind of campaign starts or mechanics, and they just felt very outdated. But lo and behold, we ended up getting a great Greenskin rework alongside the Warden and the Paunch DLC in Game 2, and well, we'll talk about it, folks, but here's the Greenskins and the state of the faction in 2022. This is the new series in which I'm covering all the factions of both Total War Warhammer and Total War Warhammer 2 before we get to the launch of Game 3 on February 17th, 2022. It's close, folks, and so let's take a look at the Greenskins today. I've already mentioned a little bit about how I think they were improved, but do they stack up? Are they ready for Game 3? And then, of course, most importantly, make sure you take an opportunity to get down in the comments and tell me what you think the state of the faction is for the Greenskins. So let's get into it. Let's get to the waagh. As per usual, let's start things off by taking a look at the campaign starts of the Greenskins and talk a little bit about their mechanics and whether or not we think that all of this is up to snuff, considering the more finalized state that the game is in Warhammer 2 following a ton of DLC and reworks. Now, the Greenskins were one of the factions that was specifically reworked. Actually, rather recently, we got a Greenskin rework that launched for free alongside the Warden and the Paunch DLC, which added Grom to the campaign. So let's take a look at the state of the Greenskins in Mortal Empires. We do have unique starts for the characters. Grimgor Ironhide starts at Death Pass. We've got Skarsnik, who starts and then makes a run for 8 peaks. So he's got a good, interesting campaign. We got Wurzag, the Great Green Prophet, who starts in the Western Badlands and dances his way around and brings all the savage orcs to the waagh. We've got Grom starting at Massive Orcal and fighting against the Filthy Peasants and their lady. And then we've got Azag the Slaughterer starting in the northern World's Edge Mountains, taking on Ungrim and vampires and Kislev alike. So there is a unique start for all 5 legendary lords for the Greenskin, and they do have 5 legendary lords, which is a nice number to have at this point. So that was good. CA took the time to add all these and even created unique faction for Azag and Wurzag and others. So a nice job diversifying the starts. Do have but just one start in the Vortex map, and that is indeed the biggest and the greatest of all the goblins, Grom the Paunch, whose appetite cannot be satiated, and I guess whose fatness only the ogres will challenge here soon, so it ought to be an interesting eating contest between him and Greasus. Hey, we got Grom the Paunch, who starts in the east of Ash River in the World's Edge Mountains, or the South, or whatever they call it, Southlands, World's Edge Mountains. So he's got an interesting start there in the Southlands, and he'll be taking on a lot of factions. I think there's some Wood Elves in the region. You got Krokgar to your south, and you've got Tomb Kings to your west, and there are Bretonnian kingdoms further than that as well. So it makes it interesting, and of course he's trying to get himself up to Ulthuan to take on the Warden. So a nice, interesting campaign ad to get Grom there. And speaking of Grom, they added some really neat mechanics with him in terms of his cauldron. So Grom's cauldron, you can collect ingredients from this hag, and just where you find them otherwhere, and you can cook these unique meals that he feeds to himself and his troops, and it provides unique benefits to his army, and it is really neat because they're very strong benefits, and you can use it to make units viable late into the game that typically are not, like goblins and other units that are typically foregone for the larger orc brethren. So I felt like this was a very unique mechanic for Grom, and it was quite good. Now, as far as campaign mechanics go for the rest of the Greenskin tribes, I'm here in a Grimgore campaign just to give you an idea of what they changed and added, and we'll talk about whether or not it is good and worth it. So they changed a few things. They added a different waagh meter, the way it builds up. It's faction-wide. You pick a waagh target, and when you pick that waagh target, you have to hold it by the end of the time period. And if you do own it, then you get a trophy. And you can see that this is a preview of the trophy that we would get. So if we finish this, we'd be able to get extra leadership faction-wide and reduce recruitment cost. And the benefits of the trophy depend on the power of the faction that you take a waagh against. And then they also added a scrap mechanic where the Greenskins are constantly scrapping and looting from the battlefield. You can use said scrap in order to improve your forces. So see, like, for instance, Grimgore here, he's got several units who have scrap upgrades. So you earn scrap from fighting battles, and then you can use it to throw these upgrades on your units. It's like, for instance, my orc boys are doing increased weapon damage. You can put upgrades on goblin archers that give them more ammunition, like all kinds of cool scrap upgrades. So they added the scrap, they improved the waagh. The waagh army comes in a little differently, and sometimes you get really unique and interesting units in the waagh army now, depending on where you're at in terms of level and stuff. You can have feral wyverns and lava spider riders and lava Ragnarok spiders, I think. So really cool stuff that come in, and then sometimes you can pick those units up too after a waagh, and you can see, like, you got the super squig, armored squig hoppers, like all kinds of cool stuff here, feral hydras, and like I said, the lava Ragnarok spider. So really cool additions that they did for the Greenskins. They brought in some interesting new units as well. We'll talk about those when we get to the roster discussion, but I feel like that in a campaign sense, the Greenskins really are in a solid place. They've got all 5 unique starts for their legendary lords. They've got a very fun waagh mechanic that definitely plays into how the Greenskins should feel in a campaign, which is being driven to fight constantly. And so it feels very aggressive, very fun. And then the scrap mechanic is very rewarding too, being able to customize and improve key units in your army. The Confederation mechanic they added, where if you beat down an enemy, like for instance, I beat down Wurzag and then he joins me as you come in. So again, really cool stuff that you can add. I think that this is an excellent add. And overall, I think in campaign, the Greenskins are in a really good spot for a Game 1 faction. Probably the best so far that we've seen. Now let's get to the Greenskin roster. To the waagh and the boyz, the Greenskin roster has been improved a great deal since Game 1. And let's take a look at their units. We're going to skip Lords and Heroes as per usual to start off with, and we'll dive into the rest of the units and then come back to Lords and Heroes and how they help support the other units that we talked about. From an infantry standpoint, this is where the Greenskins shine. They have a lot of different infantry, and it comes in a lot of varieties and capabilities, and it is good infantry for the most part. It's where the Greenskins are going to excel. The waagh, the boyz, that's where their power comes from. They have everything from the lowly goblins, which, although not terribly powerful, they have a pretty good shield, and they can be upgraded a lot in campaigns and come at a low price, all the way up to black orcs, which black is the new green, and these guys have high armor, a very heavy hitting attack, albeit rather low defense. They can take on just about anything. They're even immune to psychology, and then everything in between. Tons of specialty units. Early in the game, orc boys actually hit pretty hard for an early unit. They have poor leadership, but again, with some upgrades, they can be insane. Nasty Skulkers give you the ability to have AP damage early in the campaign. Again, very poor leadership, but they do have that special smoke bomb ability, which can slow units down and help control the flanks. Very interesting units. You got Savage Orcs, which again, almost no armor, but they bring frenzy and some resistance to physical. And then they have nice weapon damage, so it makes them a very nice early game weapon. You got Biggins, which do a nice job against large, or a nice mid-tier unit here, both against infantry and large, to be honest, because their weapon strength is pretty solid. And then you got Savage Orc Biggins as well. Again, a big brother version to the Savage Orcs that we saw earlier with an anti-large. And Black Orcs are just downright some of the hardest hitting infantry in the game. They probably wouldn't beat Chosen head-to-head, but they're going to put a savage beating down on just about everything else. They are a very good unit for the price when it comes to elite infantry. Now, in terms of missile infantry, this isn't really where the Greenskins shine, but you also shouldn't write them off. They definitely have the ability to release some DACA with their missile line, with Goblin Archers coming in very cheap, very low range, but they can come in high numbers and be annoying. And you got Night Goblin Archers, which bring in poison, missile, and melee attack for a little bit more cost. Then you step up to Orc Arrow Boys with a better mid-range at 140 and more missile damage. And then up to Savage Orc Arrow Boys, which again, coming like Savage Orcs, they actually have some physical resistance, which typically makes them pretty decent while they're skirmishing with other units. And then you got Night Goblin Archer Fanatics, which are a lot of fun too. And of course, the Rusty Heirs are a really nice Regiment of Renown. We're not really going to cover Regiment of Renowns here, but so again, doesn't look like much, but I don't underestimate the DACA. Sometimes the Greenskins can surprise you with what they can do in the missile line, and I think it's most of the time because players don't expect it when they end up in a battle with the Greenskins and then they get caught off guard. Now, as far as cavalry goes, the Greenskins have a lot of excellent light cavalry, and it's very affordable. Their heavy cavalry is a bit slow and underwhelming, but their light cavalry is really one of their main strengths as well. They've got Goblin Wolf Riders that come with high speed and are very good at being a nuisance, but I think what you're going to see more often is the Forest Goblin Spider Rider Archers, which can get around. That's actually in our missile cavalry. We'll get down to that in just a minute. But we got Forest Goblin Spider Riders with poison attack. They can help support larger cavalry units. You got Squig Hoppers, which do AP anti-infantry as well as poison attacks. You've got Orc Boars, which give you some anti-armor ability early. They're not particularly strong, again, but they do have a pretty good charge bonus. They can do some AP against factions like the Dwarves, so can the Squig Hoppers. They've added Orc Boar Chariots, sorry, these were here all along. The Chariots are good AP anti-infantry damage, again, very useful against factions like the Dwarves. Savage Boar Riders, which again, going to be similar to the Boar Riders, except crossed into that Savage realm where they're going to get the physical resistance and frenzy. Orc Boar Boy Biggins, a slow unit, but for the price, pretty decent, honestly, and with the amount of damage they put out there. A little squishy, but they have a decent charge bonus, and they do AP anti-large, so not the best heavy cavalry out there, but still not bad. And then you got the Savage Boar Biggins, which are, again, just the Savage Orc version of the other ones there. Now, in terms of missile cavalry, this is where you're going to see a lot of use from multiplayer players. The Goblin Wolf Rider Archers and Spider Rider Archers can be a huge nuisance. A lot of people like using the Morgreps Mangy Marauder variant because it brings AP missile damage, and then the Death Creepers, same thing there. Sorry, not AP, but the Death Creepers can be very annoying. So they're very quick. They get around the battlefield, and they're a big nuisance to heavy cavalry, and they can really irritate the back lines of an army as well. They come, a lot of them, with Vanguard deployment. Very dangerous units, and again, one of the big strengths of the Greenskin army. Now, as far as monsters and beasts, the Greenskins do have a lot of options. Some of these came rather recently, so let's run through those. Squig Herds can do good AP anti-infantry damage. They're very squishy, but they do a lot of damage, and they can be useful against expensive units when they're backing up cheaper units like Orc Boys or Goblins. They can be extremely useful. Trolls dish out nice AP damage. Low leadership, they do regenerate, so they can be handy, but they also have relatively low armor. River Trolls are a slightly different version that also have like this kind of stinky aura, which takes down melee attack around them, which is pretty handy. They do a little less damage, but they debuff melee. Stone Trolls are really where it's at these days. These guys have more armor, still the same in the leadership department, but they pack a wallop in melee, so the Stone Trolls are nice. You got a Giant. The Giant has always been a huge damage-causing unit. It does huge damage to Lords, Heroes, Infantry Blobs. Very flexible unit. Low armor, and the leadership can be broken fairly easy. It's still a good unit. And then you got the Arachnarok Spider, which does have some missile capabilities with it. Rather short range, but still fairly powerful. That has a lot of ammunition, the 200 ammunition. Good melee attack and good AP anti-large weapon with the Arachnarok Spider. And then, of course, they added Rogue Idols into the game, which are really cool. Rogue Idols are a very powerful anti-infantry tool with a ton of armor. They're very slow moving, but they give the Greenskins an interesting capability to stick a monster in and create a giant infantry slog, which they can then use magic and other stuff to help clean up. So a very interesting monster. And then there's the artillery for the Greenskins, which honestly isn't bad. It's not amazing, But you have artillery and war machines. They've added snotling wagons relatively recently. This is with the Grom DLC that came in. And snotling wagons provide a very nice AP anti-infantry addition early in the game for relatively cheap. There are several varieties of them. You have the snotling pump wagons, then you got the snotling pump wagons with flappas, and then you also have the snotling pump wagons with spiky rollas, and these ones do some armor sundering at the same time. So very interesting units and can be quite useful at helping to tear apart armored infantry lines. As far as the artillery goes, Goblin rock lobbers, not crazy impressive, but decent range. They do armor-piercing damage, so for the price, they can be pretty decent at times. And then, of course, you've got the Doom Diver catapults, which are a homing artillery, but again, pretty solid range, and these are very good at shredding up key infantry units, and not bad against enemy artillery and stuff as well, as long as they can get in range. So overall, as far as infantry, missiles, missile infantry, cavalry monsters, all that kind of stuff, Greenskin Roster is pretty solid. And it wasn't great up until the the Warden the Paunch DLC. Whenever that DLC came in, the Greenskins really got a shot in the arm. And as far as their roster goes, it had a much better place now. Now let's get to heroes and lords. As far as heroes go, Goblin Big Bosses, always a good choice, very cheap. They have a Wolf and Spider mount. These are great ways to improve what can be relatively poor Greenskin leadership at times. On the Spider, you even get some nice poison attacks. So a very nice cheap unit there. Black Orc Big Bosses came in a little more recently. They have a Boar mount where it gives them AP damage. But the Black Orc Big Boss, basically immune to psychology. He can grant immune to psychology and the reason around him. So basically used to help buff up units and help a melee slog out longer. You got Orc Shaman, which has the Big Waagh. And the Big Waagh is most notable for the Foot of Gork, which I think everybody loves as a spell. And the Big Waagh is honestly a pretty solid lore of magic. It's got some nice spells. Here We Go can boost attack a whole lot. You got the Fist of Gork, which can do the same thing to melee attack and melee defense. Brain Bursta, not bad at picking up unarmored blobs. Gaze of Mork for some magic missiles. So a pretty solid hero and nice lore of magic there. Of course, then you got the Night Goblin Shaman bringing the Little Waagh. Still a pretty good lore of magic. It got nerfed. Sneaky Stabbin' and Itchy Nuisance used to be a lot better. They got nerfed a little bit. Still useful spells, though. The Curse of the Bad Moon looks really cool, but is still so random that I would hardly say it's useful. But the Night Goblin Shaman, still a useful character. I think one of the reasons why people like him is that he has this ability here that helps reduce enemy magic power recharge rates. These guys are cheap. And if you bring them in, like so for instance, with just a couple of spells, you can get away with a very low cost unit that just sucks up enemy magic. See something like this, and they can hide to basically anywhere. See, they've got the stock trait. So they're very nice units. And then we also got the Giant River Troll Hag with the Warden and the Paunch DLC. Very cool unit here that is a nice melee spellcaster hybrid. Going to do good AP damage with their Carrion Sack and brings Lore of Death, which gives the Greenskins some added capability in terms of magic. Also, you get this Mither ability here, which really slows down a unit for about 15 seconds. It can be great at bringing an enemy unit in and then wrecking it because it gets so slow and it's not able to get away. So I think the Giant River Troll Hag is an excellent addition to the Greenskin roster and brings in that much-needed Lore of Death. As far as lords go, you've got several generics. We've got a Night Goblin Warboss, an Orc Warboss, a Goblin Great Shaman. So you get three options. The Night Goblin Warboss is a smaller, melee-focused Goblin Lord. It's going to be the cheapest. He does have a Squig, a Great Cave Squig mount, which makes him AP anti-infantry. The Orc Warboss has a Wyvern and Boar mount. On the Wyvern, of course, you get nice mobility in the air. Not going to be the strongest, and remember, Greenskins don't really have any other flyers, but their light cavalry can help protect their flyers, and sometimes it can be a good pick, but a stronger melee capability than the Night Goblin Warboss. And then the Goblin Great Shaman, who recently got the Arachnarok Spider Catchweb Spider Shrine. So that's a really cool mount for the Goblin, which again makes it a hybrid spellcaster that's also good in melee against large targets. So really cool. Also has the Wolf if you just want speed, and then no mount if you want to go around more quietly and more sneaky. So as far as legendary lords, you got Grimgor Ironhide, who used to be pretty lackluster, but Grimgor is pretty potent now. He is much stronger in melee than he used to be and packs a huge AP wallop. He is pretty powerful, and in campaign, he can be made just absolutely bonkers. The Your Next ability is quite good, and then his special item over here, which is going to be the Bloodforged Armor and Gitsnik, which is his special axe, make him, again, very powerful in melee, and, not the best lord out there probably for the Greenskins, but still pretty solid and a lot of fun, way better than what he used to be, which he was kind of a meme before they improved him. Grom the Paunch, also probably kind of a meme, but a fun one at that. He does have a chariot that he is mounted on all the time, so he does good anti-infantry damage. He's very good at busting up infantry blobs. He heals, albeit he is a big target. In campaign, it's pretty ridiculous how powerful he can get, and he's a ton of fun to use. In multiplayer, he has to be used with a little more care because he is weak to fire damage, and you just got to be a little bit careful. He's a large target. Skarsnik is a fun AP anti-large unit. He has Gobla right next to him, so a model that isn't mounted. So he'll be a little bit slow getting around, but if he does get into melee with a large target, he's very capable against it. And then he's also got these the Fermented Fungi ability, which came in, I think, in the Warden of the Paunch DLC as well. Very good at rampaging and weakening enemy monsters and lords. Very nice hex that comes in with him. It makes him a very potent choice. You got Azag the Slaughterer, who has always been the choice for Greenskin mobility because of his mount on Skull Muncha. Plus, he packs the Lore of Death, which can be very helpful. Azag is pretty solid in melee, and he's a very nice hybrid caster lord. A lot of fun to play with. And then, of course, you got Wurzag, who is still a very popular choice for the Greenskins. He does have a boar mount, but that's kind of heretical, right? He needs to be on foot dancing. So if you put him on the boar mount, then you're a monster. But most people love Wurzag for the Effigy of the Git, which is a direct damage spell that is quite powerful and allows Wurzag to basically freeze an opponent and cause damage to him. He also packs the lore of the Big Waagh, which gives him access to the Foot of Gork, which is a very popular item for Wurzag, and he does a lot of damage with it. So anyway, Spleen Rippa is his special boar mount as well, too, and he does pretty decent melee damage when he's on Spleen Rippa. So really cool. The Greenskins, again, 5 legendary lords. They're all pretty fun, and they're all playable. I think the Greenskins are in an excellent spot, honestly, going into Game 3. They've got an excellent waagh mechanic. The waagh armies are fun. The scrap mechanic is fun. Grom has an awesome cauldron mechanic that is insanely fun. They've got a solid roster with good picks, and they've got a lot of unique starts on the map as well. So honestly, I think the Greenskins are in a fantastic place. That's mostly because of the Greenskin rework, again, that rolled in at the same time that we got the Warden and the Paunch DLC. But overall, very happy with where they're at. The Greenskins are a fun faction in both campaign. Their roster is very excellent in the campaign. In multiplayer, they're a competitive faction as well. I mean, I don't know that they're just like the top faction, but especially when they got their updates and the Warden and the Paunch, they become a lot more popular. And so they definitely have way more capability in multiplayer than they used to and are a much better faction. If you're a more dedicated competitive multiplayer viewer here, feel free to go in and give me your thoughts on where the Greenskins stand. But honestly, they're fine. I think that the Greenskins are in a excellent place as a faction, both in terms of multiplayer and campaign with their roster. And then, of course, they have good mechanics and starts. So CA did a good job bringing the Greenskins up to date. They are one of the oldest factions in the game, but they don't necessarily feel like it because of all the things CA did. Anyway, so I would rate the Greenskins as definitely ready for Game 3. You all get down in the comments and tell me what you think. HeirofCarthage signing out for now. I'll be back with more soon.